In episode 413 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover Marvel's rescheduling of some physical books.
We also have the surprise announcement of Tom King's Rorschach.
And our comic book highlight this week is Dark Knight's Death Metal number 2.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and so much more. I am your Emperor Palp Kelli.
And I am triathlete Daniel.
Triathlete? What you competing in? Mr. Iron Man over here.
Not Iron Man.
Running the Iron Man triathlon.
But I am now one of those annoying bikers that ride on the road and not on the side of the road. I also never stop at stop signs anymore. And I ride out in busy roads too, not just on the side trails or anything like that.
So you can go 40 miles per hour.
I can't, so everyone else is forced to slow down a little bit as they pass me, just to make sure.
Do you have your professional looking biking gear as well?
Super skinny ass fucking Speedos or whatever the fuck those are. Got the helmet, got the long sleeve tight ass shirt. I've got it all. Share the road, everyone. Share the road.
Well, for those of you joining us for the very first time, the way we format the show is we go through some news. We have our comic book highlight of the week, as chosen by the Brokeheads, our Patreon shoutouts, which is our thank yous to everyone who makes the show possible, and we round it out with the Brokehead block, which is what happened with Daniel and I this week.
Kicking things off with a question that I did put out on Twitter, and it's our only gaming bit, but I kind of wanted to know what other Brokeheads wanted to see in the new Pokemon Snap. So I tweeted out, what Pokemon do you hope will be included in the game? And we got a couple of answers.
First one comes from @SpoonSandwich, who says, all the grass starters. That's all I want.
I agree with Spoon because Bulbasaur is then guaranteed to be in the game.
Well, you could just ask then for just all of Bulbasaur and his evolutions. You don't have to be that broad. Yeah, you don't have to be that broad. Just be like, just Bulbasaurs. Just give me all Bulbasaurs.
It does sound like Spoon, though, has an affinity towards grass starters, and I can see why, because when I started out with Pokemon Blue, and I, of course, chose Bulbasaur, when I eventually got Gold, I went with Chikorita as well, thinking, well, I'll just stick with the grass starters.
So lame.
When I did Heart Gold, I went with Totodile instead, but they're both good Pokemon, but I get the idea of, okay, grass has worked for me, so that's kind of like the one you'll keep going to.
Wait, you didn't replay Gold until Heart Gold?
Yeah, I didn't restart the game because I was always afraid of losing my team, the team that you worked so hard to build.
You work hard on them again and you make an even better team the next time around that doesn't have Chikorita in it.
No, that's not me as a kid, especially when I worked hard on catching Ho-Oh and all. You remember the Gold game didn't have the same hacks as Blue and Red, where you can level up to 100 with a ton of rare candies and missing no. With Gold, you had to be legit when you built up your team, so that game was much more difficult for me.
Okay, I never used those hacks in Blue. I don't even know what you're talking. I mean, I know about missing no, but I was like, no, I'm going to train my Pokemon for real, and I did.
You're better than all of us. You're better than 90% of Pokemon players.
That's what makes me the Emperor. That was on the qualification form. Did you use missing no rare candies to level? And I was like, no. And they're like, you got it. You're the only one who said no. That's why you're the Emperor.
I didn't know you had to apply. Do you apply to yourself? Are you already fulfilled?
I did. I was. I just put questions on there that I knew I would answer correctly.
Next response tweet that we got was from @MattBo_0.
I think it's a face going, yeah.
It probably is.
I like Matt Bo better. So they responded, Girafarig, Swazbuck, Tropius, and a bunch of flying types that just swoop in a blink and you miss them in a moment.
Do you recognize any of these Pokemon yourself, being a Gen 1er?
I recognize Girafarig, which is the only shiny Pokemon that I ever saw in the wild. And I didn't know why it was sparkly. And I'm like, that's weird. And I killed it.
Well, Sawsbuck is the deer one that changes its
Oh, yeah,
head based on the
I know that
seasons.
one, huh? Lame.
That'd be a cool one, but the idea here, I think, is you see those quick Pokemon kind of run by, and you have to really catch it with the Pokemon camera. Tropius, I hope there is a land that has dinosaur type Pokemon, but I don't know if that's not a starter, a grass starter, but it's that green grass type of long necked Pokemon. It has the big leaves on it.
Okay, I do know that one.
So I do hope that there is like an Aerodactyl that you can spot there, a bunch of the fossil types. I think that'd be a really cool level in Pokemon News, new Pokemon Snap.
That would be pretty cool. I don't know how, I don't know. Maybe they could do it. Maybe you go into a volcano and then suddenly you're in like the past.
Reviving one of the fossils should be like one of the ways that you capture one, or not capture, but photograph one of the Pokemon and complete it.
Even if part of it is you just have to take a picture of the fossil, and it's like when you took a picture of Mewtwo, or you took a picture of that weirdo Kingler. Was it Kingler? Was it Krabby? It was Kingler, wasn't it?
Kingler with the big one.
Yeah.
With the big claw.
And anyway, yeah, you had to take a picture of him. I think something like that would be really cool. That has to be a part of the game because that was pointless, but so fun.
Do you think there's going to be any feature here where you get to share your photos online in public?
Of course. 100%.
Now, here's the problem. People are going to come up with inappropriate camera angles. Do you think they're going to sift through those? Do you think there's going to be an approval process, or will they just kind of catch them and people, Pokemon players are going to report them like, that's not appropriate for kids? Do you think it's going to be like a self-cleaning thing?
Yeah, I really wonder, yes, people will find ways to make it inappropriate, but I'm sure there's filters on the captions that you're going to be able to put up. And really, if you're taking a picture of the underside of a Pidgey, who's going to be like, no, you could play that off as anything.
Sure, right.
Do I think you're going to be able to strategically place it to have like a penis shape? No, that's not going to happen.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking. Do you think it's going to show up and then it's going to get taken down, or do you think I just
don't think it exists. I don't think it's going to exist within the game.
It's possible with the fucking internet. They're going to find if they were to find it with Smash Brothers and come up with all kinds of fucking poses. They're going to find it with Pokemon moving around.
You could pose. I don't know. I think it's going to be much more difficult than you think it is. They're not going to put like a Caterpie and two Voltorbs next to each other so that you can like do it that way. It's just not going to happen.
Do you remember the Pokemon couple when you did the double battles and one of them had an Onix, the other had a Cloyster?
I do remember them.
Because of that, now I'm not putting it past Pokemon for that Caterpie and two Voltorbs. From here on out, it is comic book and superhero movie related news.
You're moving too fast. What Pokemon do you have to see in this game? You didn't even ask me.
No,
you didn't even ask me. Maybe my answers have changed.
Well, mine is still the same with Bulbasaur. Yeah. Fine, I'll ask you. What Pokemon do you hope to see in new Pokemon Snap?
Well, you got to have Lapras. He was such
a
really great part of that game. Did I say Gyarados last week? You gotta
have
Gyarados.
Think so.
You gotta have Dragonite floating around in there somewhere.
All Gen 1 so far.
I mean, yeah. I would love a Furret. Is that weird? Furrets?
A little bit. Why? Why Furret?
Because I was sitting around after Gold and Silver came out with my friends, and we were like, what's one Pokemon that nobody ever remembers? And nobody ever remembers Furret. I think it's the one Pokemon that if you had... Somebody's always going to remember every other Pokemon except for that one. So he's like in my top 20 favorite Pokemon.
Wow, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, because of that. Because nobody remembers. He just needs some love. He's such a pointless Pokemon.
What a Poke hipster.
I am. I liked him before he was cool.
I will say now that you're mentioning it, I do want to see, because we were just at the beach, like a rush of little Krabbies running across the beach and like capturing as many as you can in that photo and getting a ton of multiple points because of that.
I really hope that there's instances like they had with Lapras where as you take pictures of it, even from far away throughout the course, that determines how close and how many you have by the time you get to the end of it. So little things like that to find out, because one person's going to be like, oh man, there were just all these at the end of the course, and people will be like, what are you talking about? That wasn't even there. And it's like, whoa.
I still like the electrode that you force to use self-destruct to open up the path, and then you just leave it there. Like you just drive past it. Like, well, fuck that electrode.
Let it sleep. You were on a track.
whenever a Voltorb would self-destruct in the game, it was knocked out. You had to take it to the Pokemon Center. So in my mind, those fucking Pokemon are dead.
But there were plenty of other Voltorbs that you exploded, like so you could you could see those Caterpies.
They're all dead.
Do you think we're gonna get a lot of legendaries in this game? So like we had all the legendary birds in the last one.
I do, yeah. I think we will. I think we're gonna see more than just the Mew, and I know, and it's because back then we only had Mew and Mewtwo, right? I don't think Gold and Silver
they had the legendary
were.
birds.
That's true.
Yeah, you got all the birds in the games.
And because of that, it seems like they tried to fit in what they could. And this one, I think we'll probably get, I'm sure Arceus will be in there. I'm sure Mewtwo. There will probably be different legendaries from throughout the generations. If I had to guess, I don't think they're going to keep it to just the first couple of generations.
This game is going to have to be so massive. You're going to have so many, like 20 levels, 30 levels, 50, all the levels.
I hope so. I hope it's a long game that can challenge the Palpa Kelli, who can beat the original in like 20 minutes.
An hour. Takes me an hour. While we're on the subject of Pokemon, I have now added a new Pokemon game to my top 5 favorites.
Is it Magikarp?
It's Magikarp Jump. It's finally become a favorite.
I feel like that spits in the face of every Game Freak release. Because I know they worked much harder on all of those than they did on this. This wasn't even Game Freak, I don't think.
It's fine. They hit gold.
So what's your top 5 then?
Let's see it. Definitely Yellow version is number 1. And then Soul Silver is number 2. And then Pokemon Snap is number 3. And I really liked Let's Go Pikachu.
All right.
And then I'm going to go Magikarp Jump. Magikarp Jump is number 5. And then Hey You Pikachu, was that the name of that one?
N64 one?
Oh,
really?
yeah, man. I like that one. But not my top 5. It was definitely 6. But I spent a lot of hours on that game. I was always like, Pikachu. And then he would like look around like, eh? And I'm like, no, Pikachu, I'm right here. And then I'd play that game with him all the time where you had to guess like, who's that Pokemon? And then there was a circle and you're always like, it's Voltorb. And then it's like, surprise, bitch, it's the top of Jigglypuff. And you're like, oh, shit.
I remember that was in the episode too, so they put it in the game.
They did. It was in the game, but I had never seen the episode. So the first time I'm like, it's Electrode. And they're like, it's atop it. And I was like, shit. But then it was perfect after that. Oh man, that was such a fun game. I forgot you had to like feed him berries. Mm-hmm. Halfway through the game, he got pissed off at you and ran away. And you had to go be like, Pikachu, come back. And he eventually came back.
Are we good on Pokemon for the week?
No, never. But that's
forward?
fine. We can move forward.
All right, we've got some comic shop news here with retailers and Image Comics. Based on what we ordered of issue number 2 of Firepower from Image, we will receive those second printings of Negan Lives number 1 as a matching free order. So it's another way that it helps out comic shops as far as getting second printings out to them at just shipping cost. And then it also helps Image because I'm sure there's some shops that are incentivized to kind of up the numbers on Firepower just to get more copies of Negan.
Like you said, it is still charging shops for the shipping, and Firepower number 2 is not a returnable issue.
That's the other thing too, is I get why it keeps shops from ordering 100 copies, keeping the 100 copies of the second printing and then just returning 90 of them. So I understand why they did it, but that's also like a big risk on the retailer's part of, all right, well, we don't want to go crazy with the number 2s then and just trying to get a bunch of Negan Lives. That being said, though, Firepower looks to be, I think it's going to be a hit. I think readers are going to jump on it.
What is Firepower?
It's an original work from what I've seen, but they released the trade before the first issue, which is kind of interesting. So in that way, you can read the first 6 issues right away, 5-6 issues, and then pick it up individually if you want.
Interesting. We'll see how it does. Kelli doesn't care. This is a big old who cares. No, but I think that is really interesting that they're doing it that way because they're going to sell more of Firepower, but then they're also going to get this issue out.
Another way in which comic shops and readers are being helped is through Marvel and their decision to reverse the cancellation of some previously canceled digital-only titles. They're now going to be releasing the following titles as physical releases.
The titles that are definitely getting physical releases are Ghost Spider, Ant-Man, Avengers of the Wasteland, Ravencroft, Star, Marvel's Spider-Man, The Black Cat Strikes, Hawkeye Freefall, Valkyrie Jane Foster, Revenge of Cosmic Ghost Rider, and 2020 Force Works.
About over half of these, we would have been fine without the physical release.
What's
but
a Ghost Spider? Is it Ghost Rider but Spider-Man?
No, this is the one where they dropped the Spider-Gwen name. I'm guessing so that they wouldn't have to pay Robbie for the Spider-Gwen name. So now when they print out these titles like Ghost Spider, it's all Marvel profits, and it's not Spider-Gwen, which is his creation, his co-creation. So that's kind of how they got away with not needing to pay out as many royalties, is changing her name to Ghost Spider, from what I heard.
Well, they were going in a good direction with helping comic shops out, but now I'm pissed off again.
Well, this has been a thing for like almost a year now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I read Ghost Spider and I thought it was either Ghost Rider meets Spider-Man, which I think is hilarious, or a spider that died and was a ghost, which is also great, and I would have read that one.
Ghost Spider and Ant-Man were probably the two of this list that were doing the best, followed closely by Cosmic Ghost Rider as far as sales and subscriber numbers. But stuff like, actually, Hawkeye Freefall was doing really, really well too. But things like Marvel Spider-Man, The Black Cat, Star, Ravencroft, those probably would have been fine as digital only. But I am glad that they're coming out as physical, because the collectors that are there, even if they're fewer, still want to finish their stories in the physical form. Again, I heard a lot of readers and subscribers that said, I'm just not going to finish the story then, but they're still frustrated that they weren't able to. But now that option is there again. And if you're worried about your comic shop, like, hey, so do I need to resubscribe to these? As long as you didn't go in and tell them, hey, I want to drop these titles because they're digital only. If you didn't touch them, if you didn't tell them anything, that subscription is still there and you're still going to be theoretically down for it.
I think there's definitely some good things that will come out of this, especially for comic shops. There's a little extra profit. And maybe it's just because I don't like Marvel, but I almost feel like they're going, the other guys look bad, so let's just look really good.
I appreciate it, though. Like, even though we're now living in a world, and I'll talk about it when we get to the Brocat block, we're living in a comic shop world of there's now two Marvels, unfortunately, where DC is acting like a Marvel, so we have two big Marvels now. At least Marvel is the lesser of the two evils right now.
The Marvel is the lesser of the two Marvels.
Oddly enough. Next week, they change their name to like something, what would it be? MC Comics, Marvel Comics, and then I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I'd fucking freak out. But at least things like this tell us that they see that there is a future with comic shops, whereas DC is doing this hashtag digital first initiative now. I don't know if you saw this, but they started putting this out on social media of Harley Quinn, Red, Black, and White, hashtag digital first, Shazam, Giant, digital first, and they're putting digital first on all their comic releases that are getting obviously digital first releases. The thing is, they're making a big thing of it now, whereas for the last year, they weren't.
Right.
So that's the difference right now between Marvel and DC. One of the many.
Something from DC that I'm really excited for, though. This October, Rorschach will be getting a DC Black Label Maxi series from Tom King, who did Mr. Miracle, and Jorge Fornes, who did Batman.
The solicitation for Rorschach reads, quote, "It's been 35 years since Ozymandias was exposed for dropping a giant telepathic squid on New York City, killing thousands and ending the public's trust in heroes once and for all. The Minutemen are gone, only their memory lives on, especially the infamy of Rorschach, who has become a cultural icon since Dr. Manhattan churned them to dust. So what does it mean where Rorschach reappears as part of a pair of assassins trying to kill the first candidate to oppose President Robert Redford in decades?" End quote.
Ooh.
Rorschach is back. And he's pissed off. He's got his can of beans.
Is that his music? He's got to have a great guitar riff in there.
We also have a quote here straight from Tom King, who said in a statement,
quote, "Like the HBO Watchmen show, and very much like the original 86 Watchmen, this is a very political work. It's an angry work. We're so angry all the time now. We have to do something with that anger. It's called Rorschach, not because of the character Rorschach, but because what you see in these characters tells you more about yourself than about them." End quote.
Incredibly poetic. I'm sure this will be very much like, I say less like Mr. Miracle or Strange Adventures and more along the lines of, from what he's saying here, heroes in crisis is what I'm getting those vibes from.
Reading this, I very much think that this, and I think it's a perfect platform for it, great character to use, will be a reflection of what's happening now in life. And we've talked about it previously that, you know, a lot of the things that go on in the world you see reflected in comics, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more of, and I know we're just getting back into it, but there's a lot going on in the world. There has been a lot for a very long time, and I think that Rorschach, so he could be anybody, right? You put on the mask and essentially you're Rorschach. So I definitely think it will be a statement to our president, to the things happening in the world and our country. And I'm really excited to read this and see what he can come up with and maybe be triggered by by a lot of things.
It'll be interesting to read this version of it. Now, I think old school Watchmen readers or purists may not enjoy this one as much as like the maybe before Watchmen stuff. I don't know how cognitive Tom King is being with keeping the character as loyal to the original material as I guess others in the past have done, but from what he did on Batman, it kind of pissed off a lot of old school Batman readers, and I think this might be one of them. I know he is more left-leaning, and Rorschach, the character, from what I remember in Watchmen, he was a very, I would say, a much more right-leaning character than everyone. He was very straight about calling out these characters that he felt were not on the same moral plane as he was.
It'll definitely be interesting to see where he takes it, because I think everything you said is true. And people who really like the character of Rorschach, me, one way or the other, I was like, nah, whatever. Like, he was a cool character, and I liked his role within Watchmen, but I don't feel that I personally need this one to be super true to it. And probably because I just don't know enough about his character or care enough or follow it well enough. I think I've only read the book once and seen the movie maybe twice. And of course, the only other Rorschach I've been exposed to is the one from the new comic, which isn't even really Rorschach.
Obviously, Alan Moore is probably not thrilled about this, just like everything else that they've made. So this is no different than anything else. But do you think that we are going to get more from the Watchmen universe? Is this the first of many works now that we're going to get down the line?
I would definitely think so, especially with how well the show did. I'm assuming the show did well just because I liked it so much. So I think it's great. I think the Watchmen universe is the perfect one to put political feelings, political views, and really reflect what's going on around us if you're going to choose a universe, right? Because that's what the original was so based on, was those same kind of thoughts, and even the HBO show, right? Very close along those lines. So I definitely think we'll get more. I think Black Label for these is awesome because you really have a lot more freedom. And Watchmen was dark.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people getting murdered and blown up. And, you know, that the concept of, well, we'll kill 3 million to save more, and that's okay. Right? So, yeah, perfect. I think it's just what's going to come out of this, if they continue with it, will be some really solid work. And as we've seen so far, any time that they dip their toe back into that Watchmen universe, they still do the original justice.
For the most part, I will have something to say when we get to Death Metal, because they are pretty loose about Dr. Manhattan in that issue. And we'll talk about that when we get to our comic book highlight.
Rorschach is set to release October 2020, and you know we'll talk about it here.
Marvel and DC aren't the only publishers out there, of course, and we've got some news this week from Boom Studios, where this November they are going to be relaunching the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with an all-new issue number 1, where they will introduce a new Green Ranger.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Whoa!
The relaunch will take place during the White Ranger era and will take place after the current Necessary Evil arc.
So from what I'm reading here and from the statement that they put out, it takes place in the same continuity as the current run of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So it's not a reboot, it's just a renumbering or relaunch of the series itself, which everyone does it whenever they hit 50 issues or 100 issues. pretty common, especially with Marvel and DC. But with this one, it looks like the White Ranger is the leader of this particular team. And this Green Ranger is someone that's obviously not Tommy Oliver, but has similar powers to what he had originally. And this is all, if you haven't read any of the Power Rangers comics, this is outside of the show's continuity. This is doing its own thing with the same characters from the beginning.
There's only 2 requirements to be the Green Ranger. Do you know what they are?
Long hair?
No.
You have to be evil first and then turn good?
I mean, I guess, but that's not the most important one.
What are the 2?
You have to be a heartthrob and you have to be mysterious.
So do you think it'll be a female ranger? Do you think we'll go that route?
Probably. Damn it. Yeah.
Well, they could still be a heartthrob and mysterious.
I mean, she could be, and that's definitely, I 100% think that's the direction that they'll go. But Teenage Kelli, my heart is not going pitter-patter.
Was the Green Ranger your favorite? Did you watch that as a kid, teenager?
I did watch it as a kid. I stopped before we got to the Green Ranger. I feel like, so my favorite Ranger was the Pink Ranger. And I feel like I liked the Red Ranger because I just assumed that they were supposed to end up together. But I didn't watch it long enough to really form an opinion. My best friend's brothers really watched the Power Rangers, and we watched Sailor Moon. And then once I discovered Vegeta, it was all over.
The rest is history, as they say.
The rest is history.
If you are subscribed to the current Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic, this one, as soon as it shows up in the previous catalog, make sure to sub to it because it is considered a separate comic book series. Every time there's a new number 1, Diamond, the publisher, all of them, they consider it a new series so it doesn't just roll over with your previous one. You got to make sure you get on that list.
Look at all this insider information they're getting up in this show.
Just giving them all the heads up.
Yeah. This is secret stuff. You don't hear about, find me another show where you hear about this stuff. Nowhere. That's why we're the best.
That's one advantage. Yeah, I think that we have that. I'm actually working in the trenches in a way, sort of. Not really, because I'm not an artist or a writer. They're in the fucking trenches.
But you still have the insider information. Like, you know how these things get, like, labeled and put through your system. And, yeah, listen, you're helping the world right here.
Just doing my bit. Just trying.
Just trying to make sales, Kelli. That's all I'm trying to do.
Earlier, you had mentioned how much you enjoy the great service that is HBO Max and its offerings like Watchmen.
Best streaming service around.
Well, they have announced a series committed to Matt Reeves' Batman universe through a drama set in the Gotham City Police Department.
Producer Matt Reeves did have a statement, quote, "This is an amazing opportunity, not only to expand the vision of the world I am creating in film, but to explore it in the kind of depth and detail that only a long-form format can afford. And getting to work with the incredibly talented Terrence Winter, who has written so insightfully and powerfully about worlds of crime and corruption, is an absolute dream," end quote.
The Batman film is set to release October 2021. Who knows if there will be a delay between now and then. I think that's very likely, but we'll see. I've heard a lot of comments saying that didn't we already get this with Gotham? But
Gotham got a little wacky.
Yeah, anyone thinking that this is going to be like it, I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening. I don't see this being as wacky like you put it. I think it's going to be closer to Gotham Central, which is what I wanted out of Gotham. Right. And I think that's why we enjoyed that first season or two the most, because it was more grounded, especially when you compare it to the final season where every villain is showing up. And I understand why they did it. They needed to boost ratings and keep the viewers. And that definitely worked out really well for them because they did go on for so long. But put it on HBO Max, where you're not trying to please as many advertisers on that format, you're more free to kind of move forward with your vision. How do you feel initially about this drama set in a separate Batman universe?
My initial thoughts are I'm actually really excited and on board with this direction. So I think Watchmen did really, really well for them. I know it was something that I enjoyed. And so I definitely see this as them kind of testing the waters and saying, how well will something like this do, right? Let's say they make it, I don't know, just a maxi series again. 45-minute hour episodes, do 8 of them like they did with Watchmen, and really dive further into that world where the show can stand alone on itself, but you also get a lot more out of the movie if you've seen the show, if you watch the show going back into it. But if this does really well, how many more movies can you do that with, where you're still creating a really solid show that your viewers are going to like? And some people may even subscribe just for that show because it stands so well alone. But because it's set in the universe of a movie as well, like you said, like we've said a million times, with HBO, you really have that freedom to do a lot more than if it were to show up on CBS or...
CW.
CW. I was going to call it the WB. It hasn't been the WB in a long time. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Showing your age there.
Just a little bit. So they really have so much more flexibility. And I think that especially with making it like Gotham Central, which can stand up really well as a cop show, a mystery show, whatever by itself, and again, test those waters. I think this is the perfect opportunity to do it, and I'm here and I'm ready for it. And you don't even really have to have the same actors that you are going to have in the movie, because you can have completely different characters that you're not going to see in the movie. And I don't know. That's my thoughts. What are yours?
People were assuming that Gordon had to be in it because it's a Gotham show, but that's not I don't think that's the case at all.
And if they are going to have him in it, he only has to play a cameo, right? Have him in there for 10 minutes of the episode to show up and be like, guys, we got to do this. Bye.
I'm here for the pilot. See ya.
Right, exactly. That's all he has to be in there for. And then he can go back to the movie and we can still see these secondary characters, which maybe you did see in the movie, but they weren't really a part of the movie. So it didn't really matter.
The other bit I was reading is this show is set to show everyone how Gotham got the way it is.
That's awesome.
So we're going to kind of focus, I think, more on the villains and on the GCPD specifically, and maybe even other citizens in Gotham, right? I'm more excited for this than I am the Batman film. Is that weird?
No, not really, because you're really hoping that it's going to be like Gotham Central, which you really enjoyed.
Yeah, and also my attention is on Zack Snyder's universe right now. We know that's like the tried and true, right? We got some films out of that universe that we really enjoyed, and we're getting more of it. The Batman so far, Matt Reeves, as great of a director as he is, we don't know like how much we're going to really enjoy it. Now, you tell me Gotham Central and put out a whole show about it on HBO Max, and we know HBO Max is definitely quality, then that's where my mind goes. I want to see that over the Batman film. And that's just where my mind is currently. Maybe there'll be another trailer, or we'll find out more information about this feel of the Batman in Matt Reeves' world. But so far, I'm kind of like full, you know, like I feel good about like, all right, I've got I've got too many great things to look forward to, you know, like another one. It's not that there isn't room for another, but the Batman really has to compete with everything else around it.
The most important thing within this is to make sure that the both are harmonious without needing to rely on each other. And I think they can do that. You know, you get some great writers in there. You make sure that throughout the writing process of both, they're working together. They understand what they're trying to build. And I think they're going to come up with something really solid.
Something I've been seeing on Twitter a lot is that DC fans are really well fed right now. Like over the last ever since they announced Zack Snyder's Justice League, like we've been really well fed with all kinds of announcements, information. And I was mulling that over and thinking maybe that's why I've been less anti-MCU on the podcast. And one of the reasons is they're not getting really a lot over on that end. So, but the other thing is it's not affecting my shit right now. Like this is what I wanted. This is why they're over the last how many years now, since the DCEU, since BVS, really, because that's where it ramped up the most. Had we had to be on the defense from all fucking directions, from my coworkers, from my friends, from family, because of the DCEU. And now that it seems like there's still obviously those critics and everything, but this movement and this fan base is more vocal and united than ever, that we can just surround ourselves with those like-minded fans, and we're getting content and we're getting the future. Whereas a year ago, yes, I was incredibly bitter that these bloggers, critics, these MCU sheep had pretty much obliterated that DCEU movement and universe by forcing Justice League to happen. So I had a lot of bitterness then. But by them saying, no, we're doing right by releasing this, and Zack saying I'm doing it without compromise, so we're actually getting a better version of the film, I think that's why there's been less of that. I don't know. What do you think?
I would definitely agree with that. You know, when you have people who are attacking you constantly and saying, oh, look, my thing's better than yours. Yeah, it definitely takes a toll on yourself and your mood when you talk about those things. And you would associate even the things that you were getting from DC with those negative emotions of, well, I can't even enjoy this because somebody will tell me why it's wrong. And I had a lot of conversations with some people about that when all that was happening of just because I like it doesn't mean, and you doesn't mean that it's wrong that I like it. And that was definitely the environment that we were in for a really long time. And
yes.
I think it's a credit to you and a lot of DC fans that you guys are getting these great things and you aren't like knocking on all the Marvel fans' doors like, look, my thing's better than yours. My thing's better. Where's your thing? Because my thing's here.
Well, it's because we've known that that's not cinema. Like the MCU sheep, I mean, that's like a known
You're like too because
easy
we're not
thing.
children.
Like, that's already
Kelli.
default.
We're not children, so of course we're not. We're grown ass adults.
I've even noticed when I talk to people or when I play the BVS or the DCEU movies in the shop, there's suddenly this vocalization of, I really like Ben Affleck as Batman.
Sure you did.
And part of that thing, I get that. Like, but the thing is, even if they're lying, there's a change happening then.
Right.
Or at the very least, people that were afraid of saying those things are now saying those things. So it's a positive either way because yes, it's changing the tide. Fine. Welcome to the bandwagon. I don't care because if that means I'm getting more from this universe and more content, then so be it. I'm not, that's like gatekeeping mentality. And it's like, I don't care enough about that portion of it. Maybe when I was younger, I did. Especially when you're growing up with like PlayStation or Nintendo or Xbox or whatever. But these days, I'm just like, I'm grateful that we're getting more of this. And if that means I get more, fantastic.
Well, I'm so happy we're in this time. You got over that hurdle, you climbed that mountain, and you came out better for it on the other side.
It's not over yet, though. It's just starting. That's the thing.
You're getting there. It's a continual mountain.
Lots of great stuff coming our way. Let us know, as always, what you think of a lot of these announcements. I'm going to try to get better about putting out a tweet or something for some of these news stories so we can try to attach some tweets and comments and opinions onto this. And that's another thing that would have to work into my schedule, but I'm trying to make it a habit moving forward, kind of like I did with the Pokemon Snap thing. And obviously it worked. We got a couple of responses. So I think if I do it more consistently, we can hear from more of you more often.
Speaking of Pokemon Snap.
Right. We're back to the beginning.
We gotta go back. Do you think we're gonna get Pikachu dressed up in like cute things? I was just looking at my cutely dressed Pikachus on the shelf there.
That's a great question. We got Surfing Pikachu in a way in that first
but
game.
He wasn't wearing like a cute little Santa hat on a snow level.
We got Surfing Pikachu in the first game, and we got regular Pikachu. Like, this is the thing about you Pikachu fans. Like, I just see Bulbasaur and all, but
You Pikachu fans? You Pikachu fans.
People.
Do you like our couch? Because that's where you're sleeping, you Pikachu fans. Why can't we all just be friends? Why do we have to be gatekeepers?
I don't know. I'm hoping we do. Like, because he's already he was in every level in the first Pokemon Snap game, which is awesome and great for you guys. So I think we'll get that same thing in this one. If they were smart, they would theme him.
He wasn't in the fire level.
I'm like 99% sure he was in every single level of that game.
Pikachu was not in the fire level. Where was Pikachu in that fire level?
Let's take a pause and look it up. All right, the results are in. We're going to go into our Patreon shout-outs now.
Yeah, you want to tell me? You want to talk about who is the better Pokemon Snap knower?
All right, well, then you're in 90%, almost every single level in Pokemon's. Then my point being, in the new one, I think we will get... No,
please tell me the answers. Pikachu in the fire level of Pokemon Snap.
There's the Trash Lizard, there's Arcanine, there's a Coughing Smoke, but there is not a Pikachu. I would have preferred a Pikachu in there, and I think they should have put a Pikachu in there over the Charmander or any of the Trash Lizards.
I think you're trying to deflect here because the answer is I was right.
No, you are right. And now see how I turn to your side while also trashing the shitty Pokemon at the same time?
Magmar was in there. You like Magmar.
I do like Magmar.
They fought and like killed each other in that game.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you had Arcanine and Growlithe.
Yep.
And you had Vulpix.
Yes. Moltres
was in there. Oh, yeah. He was angry. He was like, every time. That was like one of my best pictures, though, was that Moltres. And you had Rapidash.
Yep.
He was in there. Was Ponyta in there? I think it was just
that
Rapidash.
I don't remember.
just Rapidash. But, oh, no Pikachu.
He should have been in there, though.
But he wasn't.
Right.
So,
all right.
You doubt me again. Doubt the Palpa again.
Well, let's answer the question. Which themed Pikachu do you want to see a new Pokemon Snap? Aside from Surfing Pikachu, because we got that one already.
Yeah, but he's not. We had, so the themed Pikachus we had Balloon Pikachu, Articuno Pikachu, Surfing Pikachu. Articuno Pikachu was there.
Yeah, he was in there. I like how that's now a themed Pikachu.
That is a themed Pikachu. Thank you. You had Pikachu on a ball.
Right.
And then you had 2 Pikachus doing lightning on a stump. Those were all the Pikachus. That was the hardest one to get, BT dubs. It was very difficult. Anyway, moving forward, I would like to see, I think I really want to see Santa Pikachu. Or Pikachu dressed up as a ghost type. Or Pikachu with a little Magikarp hat on. Just all the Pikachus. And every level, there should be a hidden Pikachu somewhere that's dressed either as another Pokemon or dressed as something. Oh my God.
Do you want to see Pichu and Raichu as well in the game? See, that's what I always think is fascinating with you because, and I don't know if that's with all Pikachu fans, but I like Bulbasaur so much, and I also like Ivysaur and Venusaur as well. I have an attachment to those Pokemon, but I think it's because you grew up with, you played a lot. Yellow's your favorite game. Yes. You never evolved the Pokemon in there. Mm-mm. If you were able to evolve them, I think you may like Raichu more. I think you'd still dislike Pichu.
Probably, but I feel like they always made Raichu out to be a villain. So
because of the show, though.
Because of the show, but also you fight Surge and he has a Raichu. And
That's true.
That was like the hardest fucking Pokemon to beat. I hated that Raichu. I lost him like 3 or 4 times my first round, all because of his Raichu and his stupid body slam or whatever it is that he did that would one-hit KO me every single time. So I just feel like throughout they just made him a villain. So I didn't like him for that reason. And I've told you why I don't like Pichu. It doesn't make sense that it took all this time for you to realize, oh, Pikachu evolves from something. Like he was the whole point of the game. How'd you not know?
I thought Pichu was one of the Pokemon that were in the original version, but they had to cut down on all these pre-evolutions.
I mean, that's fine that they did that, but then that means he wasn't in the original version.
You're like, in canon, however.
Right, in Kelli version, he wasn't there. So I didn't know about him till I got to that one. And I'm like, how you dummies not know? And so then in my mind at the time, I'm like, so is he only pre-evolved in Johto? I'm very confused. So that's why I don't like Pichu. I also don't think he looks great.
All right. Well, everyone got their fill of Pokemon talk this week. That's for sure.
I can keep on going. Let's move on to Vegeta, my second favorite topic. We'll be here all night.
Let's head into those of you who make this Pokemon talk possible. It is our Patreon shout-outs of the week.
This week we have 4 shout-outs. The first one goes out to Jose. You can find him on Instagram at Kingdom T-shirt.
He posted his latest The Mandalorian design t-shirt. I know a lot of brokettes out there are fans of the Star Wars, so make sure to check out his Instagram at Kingdom T-shirt to check out this design. He also helps us out with our decals.
Speaking of Mandalorian, my mom has, speaking of Pikachu, no, my mom has, there's you know those little slicers? They're called mandolins.
No.
So it's like that long thing and you can slice things very thin with it.
For veggies, right?
Yeah,
and
for veggies.
People cut their fingers on it all the time.
Yeah, I've done it before too. So I was talking to my mom about it and I forgot the name of it. So I called it. I was like, yeah, your Mandalorian thing, as you would do to me. And I was like, hee, I'm so tricky. And Mom's like, what are you talking about? I was like, damn it, she doesn't know what a Mandalorian is. It's fine, I tried.
The next shout out this week goes out to Elizabeth on Twitter at EPLifts.
Elizabeth said, quote, I give the best Father's Day gifts. Meet my new little brother, Rocky, end quote.
You saw this puppy.
I did. He was so
scruffy.
Cute.
Love it.
I clearly got you the wrong Father's Day gift. Should have been a puppy.
Now every year we're going to get a new dog.
Every year. Got to get a new. Ace would love that. She would love to share her home with a new puppy.
She dealt really well with it when it came to Leo.
She just loves him. Just wants to spend all her time with him. But Rocky is super cute. I think a perfect Father's Day gift.
Here we have Nick F on Twitter at Jersey Whisperer and at Nick's Nerd News 1.
Nick said, quote, say what you will about Josie and the Pussycat movie, but let's all be impressed that someone made it seem like Tara Reid could actually play the drums. It's really quite amazing, end quote.
Did you ever see that one?
I didn't.
Are you familiar with Tara Reid? Did you have any
Yes, I've
Movies you
seen her. I
enjoyed?
feel like I don't know movies that she's been in, but I feel like she's an actress everybody knows because she's been in everything. Wasn't she really in the Scream movies? Was that her? No.
She was big because of American Pie, from what I remember.
I haven't seen American Pie.
And then she spun off into like her reality show, which was like Terra World or whatever. And I think that was like the height of her popularity. But definitely, if you grew up in the 90s, you knew Tara Reid. And there was that rumor that she had a fake leg.
What?
Yeah, I forgot what it was, where there weren't a lot of pictures of her legs. Like, it was always from her waist up. So people had this conspiracy that she had a fake leg and she had lost it in some swimming accident during the 90s.
How do people
I don't
think
remember
these things up?
A shark attack. I can't.
I learned the other day that people think Avril Lavigne is dead. And this is just like a double.
Any celebrity? Oh, no, I didn't hear that one.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
No,
so
no.
Avril Lavigne is still doing stuff. And so people like analyzed her moles and said her moles are different now than they were 15 years ago. So she died 15 years ago. And this
got
is
replaced.
Just somebody new. Yeah.
Not to be mean to Avril, but it's not like she was famous enough to, we got to keep this shit going. We got to keep selling these 200 CDs. You know what I mean? Like,
listen, 13-year-old Kelli used to lay in the rain and listen to Avril.
Oh, she was huge.
Yeah.
I agree.
But not huge enough to keep her going.
Unless she died at the height of her popularity and then they replaced her. But this isn't the Beatles we're talking about.
Well, I love these celebrity conspiracy theories. This is amazing.
I'm going to have to look into that one.
Yeah, I need to look into Tara Reid's fake legs.
Final shout out this week goes out to Julian W.
Can we pan down and she's got like chicken legs or something?
What the fuck?
So it's only from the waist up. And even though people have seen her in person, they're really fake legs. And we look finally and we're like, oh shit.
Chicken legs.
They're chicken legs.
Final one this week goes out to Julian W. on Twitter at Kage023 and at Lazy Gaming Guys.
Julian let Daniel know that he would go for Pyramid Head from Silent Hill.
Every now and again, I'll find like a buff character, and I'm like, I wonder if Julian's, because he discovered himself with the Nappa from Dragon Ball Z. So he has a type, which is like the big, buffy, giant guys, like really overly muscular men, and like Zangief from Street Fighter.
Okay.
And also Optimus Prime.
Okay.
And obviously King Triton from Little Mermaid. That's like his favorite one. So I found there was one picture that someone found from the Silent Hill games. Did you ever play those? Do you know Pyramid Head?
Yes, I know Pyramid Head.
And they're like, I never noticed how thick Pyramid Head is. And they found like the models of in game, and he's really muscly, and he's carrying around the big sword. And I'm like, I wonder. I tweeted out to Julian, and he responded with ... yes. And I'm like, fucking, normally it's a no or ill or he's too dumb or whatever. And this time he was like, Pyramid Head. He went for fucking Pyramid Head of all of them.
I feel like there's some logistical issues if you got a giant pyramid for a head. Because isn't it really long?
Yes.
Like
it's like
his
super long. Yeah.
head?
So I'm guessing that's where some of that is coming through. I don't know if that's like a power fantasy or a kink, or I'm not sure. I know I'm calling that terribleness, but it's Silent Hill. That's the only thing I'm guessing is happening. I doubt these monsters are just passionately loving on one another.
You don't know that. Maybe they are.
That's what I'm guessing his mind. I don't know. I'm only speaking for him though. So the whole thing is Pyramid Head is sexy to Julian, and I never would have guessed that.
Huh.
But I'm like, to answer your question, the logistics, it works because in the game that happens. It's able to have sex.
I just feel I'm baffled. I'm just so baffled.
It's a weird list, right? Nappa, Zangief, Optimus Prime, King Triton, and Pyramid Head.
Optimus Prime is kind of confusing too. What about Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator?
You'd have to ask him.
All right. He's beefy and he's also a robot. So it's like Optimus Prime meets Nappa.
So that's a conversation I didn't think I would have today, but thank you so much.
The sex of Pyramid Head.
Without Julian's Patreon support, we wouldn't have this. So huge thanks to Julian, Nick, Elizabeth, and Joes for your Patreon support this month.
If you too would like to contribute to our wonderful discussion, if you too would like your shout out every single month for as little as $1 a month, that's 25 cents an episode, sometimes less on months where we have more Sundays, you too can have your Patreon shout out.
And this week, we also want to give a special thank you once again to Jose. He also has a website up at kingdomtshirt.com. As I mentioned earlier, he is why we're able to get those decals out at the $5 reward tier.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. The best thing you can do is let your friends know about us. Take their phone and just subscribe. Just do it. But word of mouth is the best way to share our show.
And here we go to our comic book highlight this week as voted by you.
I tried so hard to vote for the other one.
Strange Adventures was the other option.
But I'm just one vote. So the winning comic this week is Dark Knight's Death Metal #2. This is written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo, and the colorist is FCO Placencia.
So this is the one that has more Watchmen tie-ins or ties to it. Now, Scott Snyder did mention already on Twitter and throughout the book that everything is in the Dark Knight's Death Metal series. Everything that's ever been a multiverse or existed. There's no single continuity of, well, we're ignoring Infinite Crisis or no, it all counts and it's all in here and he threw it all in. I've had readers ask me, I feel like I'm missing something. Should I have read a different tie-in to this? Does Justice League tie into Dark Knight's Metal? And I'm like, literally all of the DC universe ties into Dark Knight's Metal.
So read it all.
Yeah, everyone's going to miss something. There's no way to really be prepared for this. And I forgot who brought it up today. One of the customers said that it's almost like a Grant Morrison type of thing of like, he likes to dig deep into the past of DC and make it modern and bring it back into the present. And Scott Snyder seems to be taking I know he's friends with Grant Morrison, so he seems to be taking a similar approach to it. But one of the plot points here, spoilers if you haven't read it yet, is we get Dr. Manhattan thrown into this. They go past the source wall, according to what Wonder Woman was telling Batman or Batman was recounting. And after they break the source wall, I know Scott's original plan was to have the Marvel Universe on the other side of that, but Disney kept saying no, where he's like, what if we just have the Silver Surfer flying right by? And Disney said no. So instead, we get this villain that got unleashed from the source wall, and they even threw Dr. Manhattan at it, and he wasn't powerful enough to stop her. And now he got corrupted and churned into the Batman Who Laughs, or the Batman Who Laughs is able to harness the power of Dr. Manhattan. So to me, they kind of, the bastardization, and if you like Dark Knight's Metal, that's fine and everything, but the lack of care of these characters was, I think, most apparent in this issue so far than in even like before Watchmen or the Rorschach series that we're getting or Doomsday Clock. I think this was probably, and I know it's not Scott's intention, but I think it was the least respectful handling of these characters. I did not like seeing Dr. Manhattan laid out, head open, and then turning into the Batman Who Laughs.
Was that really Dr. Manhattan?
That's what it looked like to me. And he had the symbol and everything. And I don't know if it's a different version from a different multiverse Dr. Manhattan. And that's the thing. I have so many fucking questions every single fucking issue because everything counts.
Now I'm just going to throw this out here. Okay. Many moons ago, when Dark Knight's Metal #2 released, I said, this is too confusing. And it took you years to get to that point with me. I felt this way about this universe since it started. And I know this is what the Brokettes picked, but it's not a series that I'm keeping up with. And I was happy to read it. And there were some things that were cool to see, like Swamp Thing being a badass and like killing some truck thing. But I feel like they went into this book, into this series, and it started out with such a great concept of what if all the darkness banded together to destroy the world. And now it's just kind of turned into, what wacky shit can we think up? What is the craziest, most off the wall? If this just got quote unquote more metal, more out there, crazier, what could happen that just continues to build on it? And for me personally, as a reader, I don't think that leaves me with enough substantial story to really appreciate it and want to continue moving forward.
I'm with you there. There's some cool moments for sure. And I think so far the first miniseries had more of those. And maybe that's because it all felt fresh with the different evil Batman. And obviously it's trying to top itself by doing things like the Batman Who Laughs Manhattan. And we're getting the T-Rex Batman, which is kind of cool. Like, I'll admit that. But there's also now a King Robin who is really like a Billy Batson, right, is what they were revealing, or he's one of the kids that the Batman Who Laughs captures. But there's just too much going on to where, to me, I think that Scott's trying to juggle too many things, and it's not for the story. It's not to serve the story, I don't think, or at least the flow of the book.
Right.
Is suffering because of it.
It doesn't feel well thought out. It feels like it's down to crunch time and they're saying, what else can we do to top what we already did? What's going to get us that shock factor? Like the very last panel of the book is him turning into something else, being like, now I'm the darkest knight. And I'm like, why are you throwing in Green Lantern in there now? Like,
if it is a Black Lantern, like, we don't know. And I don't know.
Right.
I really don't know.
It feels like they're trying to give a nod to everything while making it super badass. And it's just, for me, it's falling short. I don't feel that it's particularly well thought out.
I'm curious to hear if long time DC readers, I'm talking people who grew up in the Silver Age, because we do get, classic Flash and Green Lantern at some point in these books. I'm wondering if they're enjoying this more than modern readers. So I'm curious to know, any old school brokettes out there, let me know what you think of Dark Knight's Metal, or if it's just us. You know what I mean? I'm wondering if it's more to cater to them, or if it really is just this kind of jumbled up book.
We'll see. Hopefully somebody can tell us. Maybe we're just not metal enough.
Not every comic book highlight is going to be a winner, I don't think. And I think that's all right. I think if we just pick the ones that we enjoyed like we used to, like now we have a poll up, it forces us to take a look at books outside of our normal range.
Right.
So this is one of those cases, and we can have that conversation of what is Dark Knight's Metal, and is anyone else fucking lost?
That sounds like a self-help book.
A little bit, yeah. I think the guidebook is going to help. There's a one-shot where it's going to explain how Wonder Woman got the position that she's in the first issue.
Okay.
So I think that'll be cool. And I think the Legends of the Dark Knight, I think the offshoot comics are going to be the better reads, just like in the first round of Dark Knight's Metal.
Daniel does post a poll every single Wednesday, though. So if you would like to contribute to help us pick what we are going to read that week, make sure you check it out.
Let's head into the final portion of today's episode. It is what Palpa Kelly and I have been doing this week, the Brokette Block.
We are coming down to crunch time. It is almost the end of the voting period, the nomination period for the podcast awards.
We're asking for the Brokette Corps to once again come together and nominate us for the 4th year in a row for Games and Hobbies, and hopefully for the first year on People's Choice. So we're trying to go for 2 nominations this year, and then eventually next month, that's when the voting period, the process to choose the winners at podcastawards.com will start based on who gets nominated, but there's only a select number of slots available in each category. So we're trying to make it into Games and Hobbies and or People's Choice. If you have 2 minutes, head on over to podcastawards.com. There will be a link in today's episode. All you need is an email address. You create a login for the website. You choose the podcasts that you'd like in each category, hit save, and you are all done. We're listed under T for the. I know some of the places will have us under R, but for Podcast Awards, under The Reasons I'm Broke, People's Choice, and Games and Hobbies.
It's an extremely easy process. If you did it last year, you should still have the same username and password. If you forgot what it was, like I did, you can reset password. Like I said, all around it takes between 2 to 5 minutes to make your account, to vote, and it really helps out the show.
And a huge thanks to the Brokette Corps members that have already screenshotted and tweeted on over and Instagrammed, hey, make sure to nominate The Reasons I'm Broke, and they're these, and I've done it, and I've done my part. It's like, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And we appreciate those of you who have taken the extra step to tweet out about it or to put up an Instagram post on it. So that's huge, and it helps us get the word out too.
Voting does end July 31st, so just go do it now.
Last week, I had talked about the DC Comics and the shipment. So I think this is hopefully how it's going to go every week. There's a lot of frustration still, and I'm sure I'm not the only comic retailer out there that has this, but books do arrive earlier than the Tuesday period that we used to get before the whole diamond change and all of that. So the boxes are there, and it's kind of up to the retailers how they want to process it to get it ready for Tuesday and Wednesday when the rest of the books do come in and eventually release. So in a way, it cuts down on some of the time on Tuesdays, because what I ended up doing is on Monday afternoon/night, we ended up counting the books, processing them, getting them ready for drops on people's subscription boxes. And then that way on Tuesday, we primarily focused on putting the DC books away and then counting and processing the independent and Marvel books. The problem is it still takes me, accepting that it's going to take me 4 times as long to do the DC books, because it doesn't go through the diamond system like every other title does. Just to make it easier to kind of paint the picture, normally, let's say Kelli's books are going through Diamond, I generate the list and it says, okay, Kelli, she's down for these titles. So that's when I take that list. All right, cool. Grab all the books, put them in the box, and all right, next last name, and then go to the next person. And then that way you can just, whoever's dropping the books, okay, here's Kelli's books, here's this. The way DC's is going now, since it doesn't go through the system, I now have to pull, all right, who's down for Flash number 58? And then it gives me all the names. So then I have to count out, okay, so that's 20 people down for Flash. Okay, let me grab 20 copies, put it with that list. And now that person, whoever's dropping the books, has to take those 20 copies and put them down into each person's box individually, as opposed to, okay, here's all the books this person gets. Here they are. Marvel, Indie, DC, done, all. But now with DC, as I mentioned, I have to do that, the thing with the Flash, generate that list for every single book, every single variant for DC, every single title, and then I have to put up a separate list because there's one for subscribers and there's one for individual special orders. I have to take those lists, because some people are down for both, cross out the repeats so that we're not dropping 2 of the same book into someone's box, and then do it that way. And I have to do that every single week now.
I don't really know how the comic shop industry works to the level that you do, obviously, right? Because I'm not in it. But have you tried reaching out to other stores in a mass way to see what they do, if maybe somebody's thought of some way to streamline this process?
The unfortunate thing is, unless you're a part of Comics Pro, that's a paid membership that comic owners can be a part of, and it's like a yearly thing where it gives you access to this online forum where you can communicate with these other people. Their comic shops don't really help each other out in that way, and that's because we're all busy with our own shit.
Right.
And I'm not a part of Comics Pro, and it's something I've considered before, but I've never felt like I've needed it quite the same. And I do subscribe to a lot of comic shop podcasts that I'm like, all right, let's see how they're doing things a little bit differently than we are. But at the end of the day, everyone's going to have their own pull box system. And some people have their own custom one where they can just manually put in everything so they don't have that issue. Others, many like mine, go through Comic Suite, which is Diamonds, and are running into this problem, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that with the new system that we're eventually going to get, we can fix these issues. But for now, it's still going to be months of this type of processing and pulls that is only with DC that's causing all of this extra time, unfortunately. And because the one silver lining in this is that we get them earlier so I can work on it one day ahead of time. It's like, to me, it's like extra lost unnecessary time because of that. And it's unfortunate, and it is what it is, but that's just I'm just sharing some of the, once again, inside baseball to why DC is an issue right now, and why we now have 2 Marvels. They're also going back to I keep saying that, but they're also going back to the incentive variants again of 1 in 25s, 1 in 100s. The Batman 3 Jokers thing, they have a bunch of variant covers for issue number 1 where you can have the Red Hood Joker cover. Back when Dan DiDio was in charge, you'd have 4 covers to order from. You can order as many as you'd like. Under this new ownership, or whatever you may call it, we have to order a minimum copy, and I've shared this before, minimum 50 copies of that cover to qualify to get that cover. And I'm saying this is some Marvel bullshit. They're the ones who pull this stuff of match 80% of last month's order on this to qualify just to get this variant. And when you're doing that every month, you're ballooning your numbers and hurting comic shops. So it's unfortunate, but this is how it is every week. This week we got our books on time. I'm happy about that, at least. So I'm hoping that we get that continuously every single week. But it is frustrating right now for comic shops. It is more expensive now for stores to reorder books, as a heads up. So even if you don't shop at my particular store, whatever comic shop you go through, it's more expensive to reorder DC books in particular, because Diamond sends reorders with the rest of your order. So you save on the shipping, you save on the fees a little bit. Whereas the new distributors, they have these astronomical shipping fees and processing that I saw one shop, they ordered 4 books, 4 individual comics, were charged $18 after it was all said and done.
Wow.
So they lost money on those 4 books that they maybe sold or not. So a lot of shops are just like, look, whatever books we get as an initial order, that's it, because we're literally gonna lose money if we reorder books. So you as a reader or subscriber, I've been saying this for weeks now, and I'll keep saying it. If you're on the fence for a book, just add it on. If for a DC book specifically, especially, add it onto your list, and then if you don't like it, drop it later. Because if you're on the fence and you're like, well, maybe I'll just keep picking it off the shelf, if it's something that's less ordered, you're going to risk not getting that title. And most shops are not going to reorder it because it is more expensive to do so.
Subscribing or requesting something also really helps the shop know how much to order.
Yes.
If you're just picking it up off the shelf, maybe they think people aren't interested in it because, okay, nobody's requested this book, so we're going to get very few. And then if there are really 10 people who want it, then you're SOL.
Yeah, and that happens almost every week where it's like, oh, did you guys get any copies of this? And my answer is always, no one ordered it, no one wanted it, so I didn't order any for the shelf. That's kind of how most shops gauge it. It's like, oh, there's 5 people down for this. Maybe I should get a couple copies for the floor. But if it's like Betty Page #1, no one's down for it. Yeah, I'll probably be fine letting it go. And it's usually titles that are reorderable anyway, not DC now, but the other ones that they're still in print. The only exception is when it's like this hyper indie speculator book, and in that case, you're not really losing anything anyway by not satisfying the speculator that's only there for the hot books.
Well, that is so frustrating about DC. Hopefully, they can get it together. They can get with a different system to streamline it a little bit more for comic shops.
The last thing I have on my list as far as comic shop news is we had our first Wednesday of free comic book summer. The way they're doing it, we covered it a few weeks ago, I think, is they're releasing a new set of 3, 4, 5 titles every Wednesday up until September 19th. And comic shops can release them in that way every Wednesday and kind of work it in however they'd like. Couple reasons for this is to not have a ton of people all on one day in one place. Even if you were to limit it, the amount of traffic that we got every year for Free Comic Book Day, let alone there were no limits, it would be all day of people in the shop, which was great. But imagine having to limit it to 10 people or 5 people per store. It would take forever. It would be hours of waiting to get into the shop to get these free books. So this is the way they're doing it. I'm glad they didn't cancel it because the Wednesday Warriors are still liking the Free Comic Book Day books. But as of today, I didn't see a single person come out that normally wasn't in the store for these free comics. It was a cool bonus for people that already come out on Wednesdays, and that's great. But it's definitely, as I suspected, not going to bring in extra traffic that Free Comic Book Day normally does. And it's unfortunate, and I'm hoping that at the end of all of this, we could pull off some big event. But the way things are looking, I think September is looking too early for any of that. So I'm guessing next year is really going to be Free Comic Book Day for a lot of us. I think a lot of stores are going to lose money on these free comic book summer books, and it is what it is. It's a weird situation. It's different. So I don't know. That's all I've got. It's just kind of like an extra bonus to new comic book day, if anything.
Like you mentioned, I'm still really happy that they're releasing those books and doing that extra bonus for the people who are coming out, and, maybe even potentially keeping some of them coming out, especially as things start to get crazy and we talk about a second wave. It's still going to keep them motivated to come into the store and help support the shop.
But that is it on my end. How about for Palpa Kelli?
Same old every week. That's what I do. I go to work. I watch this little man. I do homework, which is kicking my ass hardcore while I'm trying to find life on other planets.
Do you have any Leo stories?
That little kid is so cute. We went to baby gym today, and he's just having a great time running around. Until recently, he wasn't really interacting with other children, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. He's not around kids. He's around adults more, but he's really kind of just becoming a little kid, a little man, and he wants to run around with the other kids now and play and tumble and, do all those boy things. I'll hear him screaming in the other room and I'll think something's wrong. And no, his cars are just fighting. They're having an epic crash and they just crash forever.
Everything fights itself.
Yeah. Yes. Everything has to fight. So it's just wonderful. When we were at Baby Gym today, I will tell a story from there. At this moment, they brought out hula hoops and they put them on the ground. And the point was just so that they could play with them. But then Leo started like hopping through the hula hoops, right? Hopping from one to the other. And they were all sorts of different colors. Well, one of the kids came and moved the first hula hoop, which was blue. And so Leo got to the end, and rather than just turn around, he went back to the beginning, because that's what you always do in Baby Gym when you go through obstacle courses. And the blue hula hoop had moved, but his brain knew that the blue hula hoop was the first hula hoop, so he had to go and find where the blue hula hoop was to start there and keep going. And the instructors of the class were like, wow, it was amazing to watch his brain work that way. We don't usually see that, where he's just like, okay, this is the first one. My mom also pointed out today, I haven't told you this story yet. He's very interested in letters. I don't know if you've noticed, but when there's letters like on a floor mat or something, he likes to trace the letters and try to say the word. And mom's like, it's really amazing to see him do that, but I don't remember you doing that when you were his age. I don't remember what age that happens, that kids get interested in letters. And I was like, I don't know, Mom. And I looked it up, and he's like a year and a half ahead of when kids start to recognize and pay attention to letters.
Yeah, I'm trying not to play up my kid because parents do that all the time. I'm guessing it's just some kids develop at different levels on everything. So I think that's really what it is.
Just let me talk about my kid and play
But that
him
is
up.
cool. Yeah, no,
Thank
that
you.
is cool.
Yeah, Kelly, cool.
No, it's really awesome.
Cool your kid, Kelly. He still can't talk there. I'll say that. He still doesn't use words. So other people's kids are still cool.
Yeah. And the thing is, he just isn't connecting the 2-syllable thing.
Right.
And he understands it. Like we'll say, okay, bat or man. And then like he can say those two separate words or things, but he just won't connect them together. He'll say them separately if we say them separately with him, but he's yet to kind of connect those. And it's fine. He'll talk when he talks. That's what I hear from other parents too.
Right.
And that every kid talks at their own. And once they start, they don't stop.
No. And he babbles, and he doesn't stop babbling all the time. But this is pretty much it. I've been playing a lot of Magikarp Jump, which I said is a really fun game. It's just kind of like something mindless that you can pick up and play for a little bit and put it down and you're fine. My favorite thing is when they first show up and I give them that first food and they go up like 40 levels and I'm like, yeah, because it's just like bling, 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 bling. Anyway, that's it.
We did start Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, yeah.
Did we talk about that last week?
I don't remember, but we did start Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries, and we always watch it before bed, and I always fall asleep halfway through, and I never know what happens. I don't know if the mystery is solved or not.
Well, yeah, that was the funny bit is the next morning you're like, so whatever happened to the guy that disappeared? And that's just responded with, I don't know. It's an unsolved mystery.
I'm sure you were laughing to yourself as you were typing that. Like,
it was so quick. I was like, oh, I know exactly what to say.
No, but you always know, like, who really killed them. You always know.
Yeah, you suspect that, it's the best friend or it's the wife.
What would you do if one of the episodes was with Carol Baskin?
That'd be a good one.
Just tie it all together.
It is a different format than the one I grew up with because those were hour-long episodes from what I remember, and there were usually like 3 or 4 stories in each one,
right? Including
the Bigfoot or the UFO. Yeah. But these Netflix ones are the same format, right? 1 hour, except it's all that one mystery. Mm-hmm. So they don't have the host anymore or the different breakdown of each. And I do kind of miss that, but I get why, because you have to work in the commercials and everything.
Right.
But it would have been interesting to see how they fit in more mysteries into one episode. Mm-hmm. That being said, they do a deep dive this way, where it is more documentary style instead of like regular recreations and shows. This is in a way better produced because it does a deeper investigation on the mystery. So there is that on that. Most of it is people missing, and I think maybe that's what the original show was. But I want more Loch Ness Monster and Mothman.
I loved, we started watching an episode and it's like, and all the shutters were closed and you're like, and Bigfoot murdered them. You just want Bigfoot to die. I was talking to somebody the other day about that show and they're like, yeah, I got to the alien episode and then I stopped. I'm like, aliens?
At least that made me so happy that there's at least one of like, here's this made up shit. And I'm like, yes, this is what I want.
I am in habitable worlds and there are no aliens is what I've discovered.
Let me ask you something. Maceo pointed out on Twitter that he can pick me out from a lineup just hearing the way I say alien. Do I say it in a different way? Like, do I have my thing now?
Say it again.
Alien.
Yeah, I guess.
He says I emphasize it.
Empathize. You over-empathize.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. You sort of...
Alien versus Predator.
I guess. I don't think I hear enough people say alien. So I think not the problem. I think the way you say it is more almost like alien.
Gotcha.
Instead of alien.
Okay.
Because you
because I'm bilingual.
Yeah, because you do alien. It's like that Chicago and that bilingual together just makes it an alien.
I think that is all we have this week, though.
Oh, you did watch Supermarket Sweep. We forgot about that. It was your first brush with Supermarket Sweep.
It's fine. It's not something I grew up watching, so I think that's where I'm not connecting with everyone else about this. It is fun to make fun of the host, though, because you and I were watching it, and I noticed that he sounds sarcastic half the time.
All the time. And I teach 5th grade.
Moving on to the next round, like he just doesn't even acknowledge what they say.
Yeah.
Or the other one where the woman's like, I've known her for a very, very long time. And he goes, really? For how long? How many years have you known her? 6 years. Wow, that is a long time. And we got the next couple here. And I'm like, I don't think he meant that.
No.
He was not sincere. He said 6 years ain't shit. I don't give a shit about that. Let's move on to this couple.
See, that would be the 2020 version. It would be fantastic.
Well, I guess there's a modern version already.
Is there really?
Yeah, it's been going on.
Oh, man. Damn it. It's probably not as good.
Who knows?
I like seeing all their weird hairdos. You know what I did show Leo? Another Leo story. We watched The Floor is Lava. It just came on after Shaun the Sheep on Netflix because, it just rolls into the next show.
I heard it sucks.
It's not great. But essentially, it's like Wipeout, right? They got to jump across these things and there's water and you fall into the water and that's it. But Leo is so invested. Like, I think he thinks these people really die because they fall in the lava, look, quote unquote lava, and you don't see them again. Like, they make you think that that's it. And the family's like, no! Like, they really play it up. And he was like, oh. Oh, like, look, he was so into it. And like, I had to hold him because he was so nervous. And if I like walked away and then I was like, do you want me to turn this off? And he just did not want me to turn it off. And I was like, do you like this show? And it just laser focused on these people.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I genuinely think he thinks they die when they fall into this red water.
That I'm gonna have to play that now and just watch this.
You're gonna have to see him. But he was very invested. It's not a good show, but he was very invested.
I'm glad we got to catch up on some old and apparently new TV. I do recommend Unsolved Mysteries, though. It has pretty much the old theme song, which is kind of cool. Supermarket Sweep is all up on Netflix. And as always, HBO Max, the greatest of those all. Make sure to subscribe to that.
But that does wrap up our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to us talk about Pokemon mostly.
Very much appreciated this and every single week. I've been Triathlon Daniel.
And I'm Emperor Palp Kelly.
And Brocat Core. All will be well.
I feel like I'm not doing enough as an emperor recently. Like, I'm just over here chilling.
What should you be doing?
I don't know. Ruling things, getting people in trouble, sending out decrees.
Isn't that what emperors do, though? They're kind of chill.
But I was such a hands-on emperor before.
Were you?
Yes, let me believe I was a hands-on emperor. Maybe I wasn't. I feel like we voted for me at one point, and of course I won. I feel like people just don't respect my title anymore. Like, oh, yep, there's Palpa Kelly just being a Palpa.
I think it's more like, oh yeah, there's Papa Kelly. I feel like you used to tweet more.
I tweet about Magikarp Jump now
that's
so
like
that I get diamonds.
That's like your thing right now. Magikarp and Pokemon. And I even tagged you in the last week's episode.
Yeah, I liked it.
I tagged you in it and you're like, oh, you commented like, I'm so funny, I'm so hilarious. And I'm like, well, I also tagged you so you can retweet it. And then you never retweeted it.
I don't know how to work the Twitter. We've been over this. Maybe you just need to give me a crash course. I can pull up Twitter analysis and analyze your Twitter, but I don't know how to work my own Twitter. There's like politics and hash and tag things, some pound signs.
I guess I'll have to show you just so I can get another retweet from the co-host, a retweet from the co-host.
I retweet you all the time. Not every time, but a lot of the time.
But the one you should retweet is the episode.
Goodness.
Like, you don't even have to retweet the other one, just the episode one.
I cook for you, I clean, I gave you a child, and it all comes back to the Twitter.